Welcome back to Truthbombs&Tea, the YouTube channel and podcast. Today we're looking at self-sabotage and, more importantly, how to fix it. So we all have self-sabotaging behaviors. Usually they're habitual and unconscious and get in our way, okay? Particularly when we want to go to a new level and grow, our self-sabotaging behaviors kick in. So if you're new here, welcome. Just a little caveat for everybody. I'm a little bit under the weather today. I think I've got some sort of virus. So I have a few more crib notes because the neurons in my brain, the neurons are trying to fire and wire together in some sort of coherent thought. So I thought I'd better scaffold and support myself a little bit with some notes. So yes, self-sabotage. So today I'm looking at it through the lens of a particular book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. It's been around for quite a while. I came across it, I think, at about 12, 13 years ago. And I thought it was a really interesting take on self-sabotage because oftentimes deep down we know we're doing it to ourselves, but we kind of don't know why we're doing it because often they're emotional, deep-seated patterns and behaviors and they're hard to catch. And this book by Gay Hendricks gives a container so that it's easier for us to become aware of what we're doing and then as a result be able to change it for the better. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the umbrella problem. That is kind of like the overarching reason why we self-sabotage, and that's called the upper limit problem. Then we're going to look at the four self-sabotaging barriers, the four main reasons why we all self-sabotage. We're going to look at, as a result of those four things, how we operate in the world and how we live in the world or not, whether we're living fully or whether we're living less than. And these are called zones of operation. We're going to look at those four. And then most importantly, we're going to look at what practical things can you do to be able to dissolve these limits and dismantle these self-sabotaging behaviors so that when you do want to go to a new level, whether that's a relationship, a job, a business, your health, you're not going to keep shooting yourself in the foot, so to speak. Not literally, but figuratively. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is the upper limit problem. And the upper limit problem is, as I mentioned earlier, we all have, if you can imagine, an internal thermostat of comfort. Okay. And this thermostat was set probably within the first 7 years of our life through the exposure and relationships that we had and what we were taught about life and what we picked up about ourselves from family and society and friends, etc. And each of our inner thermostats are different. So my comfort levels about certain things in life and certain areas of life would be set differently to yours. And that's why you can see in a practical sense that some people seem to, go from success to success, or they have a great amount of success across the board. So by across the board, what I mean is some people seem to have like a great career that they like, plus they have good, deep relationships, plus they're healthy. Okay. So their thermostat is set at a certain level where they can risk take or they have a lot of room for growth and they're not stuck and capped. Okay. On the flip side, you see some people who have very successful upper limits in one area. So it could be they know how to make money in their sleep, but their relationships are terrible and toxic. Okay. So all of that comes down to the inner thermostat. So it's our inner thermometer where it sets our capacity for growth. It sets our capacity for risk taking and for moving out of the comfort zone. Okay. And each of ours is different. So that's what the upper limit is. Because once we feel like we want to go for something, whether that's a new health regime, a new relationship, we start to hit that thermostat, and then our automatic subconscious, if we start to go above that temperature, tries to bring it back down. Okay. So that's the upper limit problem, and we all have it to a greater or lesser degree. But the good news is that it can start to be dissolved, and that's what we're going to dive into in this video. So, given that we've got an upper limit problem, what are the things and the barriers that go to reinforcing that problem? Okay, so what are the things that kind of stoke up this temperature and get that thermostat kicking back down? So it's like, you're not going to do that, because now I'm going to help you sabotage yourself through a variety of ways. So here are the four main buckets or barriers to self-sabotage. Okay, so the first self-sabotaging barrier is feeling fundamentally flawed. So Gay Hendricks uses those terms, fundamentally flawed. And it's kind of like you think there's something wrong with you. It's kind of like imposter syndrome on steroids. So you think to yourself, if people really knew what I was like, or if people really knew, you know, why I got that promotion, they would think there was something wrong with me. Okay. So Hendricks shares this story of an executive, because he was not just an author, he was kind of like a business and psychological coach, who would sabotage really important presentations by being late to the meetings or forgetting key points in the presentation. Not because this person was not gifted or not excellent or not a genius at it, but really because they felt they weren't deserving of it, and they had to kind of do something as a self-punishment. And oftentimes we do that to ourselves. Okay, so a practical application that you can look at, if this is you, that you kind of sabotage your successes because deep down inside, whether you know it or you don't know it, you feel less than, or you feel like kind of like you're a bit of a fraud, is like, notice, do you deflect compliments? So if somebody says, oh my God, that meal was fantastic, and you go, oh, too salty. Or if they say, well done on that promotion, and you're like, well, that was a bit of luck, I suppose. If you do those sort of deflecting things and you're not good at taking compliments, that could be because of this first barrier, feeling fundamentally flawed. Okay. I'm not saying that this is, I'm not Freud or a psychiatrist. These are just things coming from a personal development psychologist. That could be one of the barriers that's keeping you stuck and sabotaging yourself. So feeling fundamentally flawed and kind of not worthy. Number two, disloyalty and abandonment. So this one is a fear that you'll become like too happy and successful, and that you're going to have to leave other people behind, mainly kind of your tribe, your family. So say, for example, you came from a working class background and there wasn't that much money to go around, and you decide that you want to become a doctor or a lawyer or someone who's high paid, okay, start a business and you make a lot of money. You can tend to sabotage yourself because you feel like you're different now to the people you grew up with, and that you may be disloyal because you think, or they might think that you think you're better than them because you have money, right? So if you've got disposable income now and you can travel and you can buy a new car, and your mum and dad might still have a car that's 25 years old, you may sabotage your success because you feel disloyal, and that you're either abandoning them or they will abandon you because you have changed. Okay, so that's the second one, disloyalty and abandonment. So ask yourself, are you keeping yourself small because your family will see you differently, or your key people around you will see you differently? Will you feel too different from the people? So you won't be talking about the same things. You won't be going to the same places. You'll be talking about different things and experiencing different things. So will you somehow feel disloyal? And if you answer yes, then your upper limit or your barrier could be the disloyalty and abandonment. Number two, belief that more success brings more burdens. Now, you might have picked this up because you saw a parent or a sibling or an auntie or an uncle who was successful financially, but they worked round the clock. Maybe their health suffered. Maybe they even had like a divorce or something. So, financially and business wise, they were like very savvy, very successful, but it came at huge costs. Okay. So, if you have that belief in your mind, then if you're offered a new promotion, if you have the opportunity to go into a business, uh, if you offered the or afforded the opportunity to go to university, or you get a scholarship, you could start to sabotage yourself because success equals burden in your mind, even if it's not conscious. Okay. Because a lot of the things that we're talking about are unconscious beliefs and behaviors. Okay. So that's number three. More success equals more burdens. And the fourth self sabotaging barrier is the crime of outshining. And I know this was one of mine. Okay. And let me just put a caveat in here now, and that is these limits are not meant to, be judgy on anybody. They're just meant to be points of awareness. And also, they're sort of things that we dissolve over time. Nobody has no limits. Okay. And the point of it isn't perfection, it's about progress. Particularly if right now, when you're watching or listening to this, you have a stuck point in your life, whether that's you're stuck in a relationship, you don't know where to go, you're stuck in a job, you're stuck with your health, you're stuck with anxiety. Wherever the stuck points are, it's about bringing awareness to it and then taking small steps over time. Okay. So the crime of outshining is a thing. I have had this upper limit for quite a long time. And it's not a finger pointing exercise or a blame game, it's just awareness. And I do know that as I did certain things in my life, certain people in my life treated me differently. Okay. In what I thought was more of a negative thing. So, frenemies, people who to your face say, wow, that's fantastic that you just, bought that new house, or, oh, how fabulous that you're going overseas, or whatever it may be, right? But behind closed doors, they stab you in the back, right? It could be that family members have that kind of pained look on their face. They try and be happy for you, but they're not. Okay. You can see sometimes people are uncomfortable. Maybe you go to a party and there's quite a few people around you and you're telling a joke, or you're good at dancing, or whatever it may be. Or in the office, you're well liked. You tend to get promotions, whatever it might be, and other people around you, you can feel that they're not happy, that they're jealous, that they're angry, whatever it is. Okay. And so generally the thermostat goes, oh, oh, don't get ahead of yourself here. And you go back down and you think, oh, well, maybe someone else should go for that promotion. Or, I won't get up and do the dancing because I know my best friend can't dance and she hates it when I get up to dance. Right. So it's about trying to keep small, because when you're shining bright as your normal self, other people around you are threatened. Okay. That's a hard one to sort of overcome, particularly if they're close friends or family. So they're the four limits, okay, the four barriers.